So we're live on site here in Newaygo, Michigan. As you see right here, we got about just under 10 acres cleared out for 52,000 square feet of self-storage. So while we're here, I wanted to go over a few concepts. You know, Twin Oaks Capital, we have a background in lending, we have a background in building construction management as well as brokerage, and then on the development side as well. And one of the things I've been consistently being asked is how I'm able to build essentially so cheaply while not sacrificing on quality. So I'm going to cover 5 different concepts. There's so many different ways you can save money on construction without sacrificing quality. But I'm going to go over kind of the 5 biggest things. So number 1, we go big. We go as big as possible. The reason why we go as big as possible, right off the bat, you see here, I got a lot of heavy machinery here. So I got probably a couple $1 million of equipment on this site. To get that equipment to the site, especially here in Michigan, because we have frost laws and other issues with just landing that equipment, I've been told it costs roughly about $15,000 to $30,000. So why that's big is because if I build only a 10,000 square foot facility, essentially then I'm basically paying $3 per square foot, net rentable square foot, just to basically land equipment on the site. So I haven't even done anything yet. My cost is $3 per square foot. When I do it with 52,000 square feet now my cost is like, 25, 30 cents a square foot. So that's one of the reasons why we like to go big. The other thing about that too as well is when I go big like this, you see, all this land that got cleared out, I actually got paid for the wood. So when you are only clearing 1 to 2 acres of land, typically that's too small because for the same reasons, they got to get their equipment here to basically clear that land. So they want a lot of lumber if they're going to pay you for it. So when I have a lot this size, what I try to do is I try to basically clear all the lot at once, even if I may not develop it, because then I can get somebody to pay me for the wood. So for example, on this site, I got paid about $400 per acre for the wood, which is not a lot, but if I would have paid somebody to do it, I probably would have paid, $10,000 to $20,000 an acre. So the next thing that we do to basically save on costs is we basically build bigger pads. Now you're probably seeing kind of a trend here, going bigger, but let's just use an example, okay? If I build, let's say 5 buildings, 8,000 square foot buildings each, versus building 6 buildings, and let's say that I do 30 by 220 pads instead. Building that extra building is going to cost me a lot more. Why? Because let's say that I build that second scenario of 39,600 square feet roughly. That means I have extra 700 linear feet of apron, which is that drop down right next to the storage unit. So that's more expensive than just pouring 4 inches of concrete. Then I gotta do another 30-foot driveway at 220 feet long. So I got a whole extra driveway. That's about, anywhere from 40 to 70,000 square feet of driveway I gotta pour, which is not cheap. And then I got more bollard posts, and then I also gotta excavate more. So just by building the exact same amount of square footage, but with a different layout, I can save hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it that way. So those are the 2 biggest things. Now for these next ones are a little bit more granular, a little bit more specific. In Michigan, we have pretty high utility costs. And so one of the things that I try to do is that our ordinances here for most areas require that the light spray downwards, mainly because they don't want light pollution for those surrounding parcels. So if we have to do it that way, it generally requires about 30 to 50% more lighting. If, however, I can have it as a globe light, or if I can have the light spray outwards, 1, I get more coverage. 2, the tenants feel safer because it's just more lit up and brighter. And 2, I just have to, or 3, I can simply just do fewer lights in that aspect as well. So this lot right now, because you can see this building right here, that's our neighbor over here. We have another storage facility across the street that's 100% full. And then we have a residential home here on this side. And then over here, we actually have quite a bit of retail on the very, very far end of the lot. So the city does not want us to upset basically the surrounding area. And actually, I did forget one more thing too. We also have a mobile home park right over there. It's the largest mobile home park in the county, which we believe we're also going to draw a fair amount of tenants from too as well. So that lighting, what we're going to try to do to work with the tenants to sell and basically ask for a variance is we're going to ask them if we can do the globe lights or lights that spray outwards in the middle part of the facility, and then on the outer parts of the facility that potentially could spray outwards, we're going to have that light spray downwards. So we get a lot more coverage with fewer lights, which obviously helps with the utility bill, and it's ongoing. So we prefer that as well. Now, I tagged on a little bit earlier as well, but having a detailed site plan as far as balancing the site, as for the timber is imperative. So I've tagged on this before, but if you can see here, all the dirt here that's on site, it's all native and it wasn't imported, and none of it needs to be exported. So one of the things you'll hear when you talk to an engineer and you talk to all your contractors, especially your excavator, they're gonna ask you, does the site balance? What that means basically is, do I have to take dirt on or do I take dirt off? If it doesn't balance, that means you're going to be spending money to basically have trucks go in and out, either bringing dirt or taking dirt out. So that's one thing. Obviously, the bigger space you have, the easier it is to balance the site in general. That just generally that is the case, but we're not going to go into details on that. The other thing about it too is having a lumber plan. If we were not able to basically get somebody to pay me for the lumber, what I could also have done is I could have had them do a burn permit, which in this area might have been difficult because we're probably a little bit too population dense of area, but that's an option. I don't prefer that option as much as I prefer to do something with the wood rather than burn it, but it is significantly cheaper as far as cost of actually taking off site. And then the third thing is finding a way to actually use the wood. So let's say that we needed more sand on this site. One of the things we could do is we could actually basically dig a big hole, use that sand from that hole to use for the rest of the site, and then basically put all the trees, all the stumps into that hole, fill it in, and then basically the site still stays balanced out. Another route that we could go is that, for example, let's say that this right here, let's say that we were applying for a special variance or a special use, and the city said, you know, we're concerned about noise with their storage facility, which you would think that they would never say that, because anybody knows that storage facilities are extremely quiet use, but because it's industrial, they may be concerned about that, or they may say, hey, we need a higher setback. What we essentially could do then is we could build a berm, which is basically it's an elevated plateau essentially. So it's basically a hill, an artificially formed hill that serves as a sound barrier, because anything that's loud that hits that hill is just going to get absorbed into all that dirt. So basically we could stack up the trees, cover it with dirt, and obviously we're never going to develop that area if there's trees underneath it as well. So those are a few tips with building cheaper. As you probably noticed, building bigger and having basically a plan is another one, or two of the bigger things. The last thing I'm going to tie on that we really didn't go into is that we do not ever want to sacrifice quality. And so the reason why I say this is because every once in a while when I have somebody quote, I always have new people come in and quote deals for me, because you'll be surprised how much, you know, even steel prices this year. I've had steel prices vary as much as 30% only 3 months apart from each other. And so sometimes we'll go one steel company to another, or we'll go one concrete company versus other because of the distance. When we get a quote that is significantly lower than the competition, that is a big red flag for us. We're not going for cheapest, even though we're concerned with cost. We're concerned with quality. So if it's a referral, then we might take it seriously. But in most cases, we actually disqualify that, or we do a significant amount of due diligence to make sure they can make that number work. Because it's a red flag for me if I see a lot of contractors say, we're going to do it at this price, and all of a sudden I have one guy that comes in way cheaper than everybody else. Because ultimately, on the grand scheme of things, saving $10,000 or $30,000 on a big multi-million-dollar self-storage project, that's not really a cost savings for us, especially if it's more hassle for me to micromanage somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. So that's all. Hope you enjoyed what you learned today. Thanks a lot.